In this video, we have two classes of stock. We have common stockholders and preferred stockholders. And the preferred stockholders are preferred because they get preferential treatment to dividends. So if we pay out dividends, they are going to receive dividends first. And any remaining dividends will go to common stockholders. So the first thing we need to do is to figure out how to calculate dividends for preferred stockholders. So you have to be given the numbers to do this. So this is how and those are going to be given, and this is how you will do it. So you're going to be given a percentage, a par value, and the number of shares. You're either going to be told the number of shares or given the numbers to calculate the number of shares. So what I like to do is, when I look at this long paragraph, I like to take out the important information from it. So it says that we have 12,000 shares of cumulative preferred 2% $150 par, and it's going to stop right there because the other piece of information has to do with common stock. So I've typed my preferred shared information, 12,000 shares, 2%. $150. And then for the common stock, we have 50,000 shares and it's $10 par. So not quite as much information for the common stock. Notice for common stock, it doesn't give a percent. Here's why. If you are a preferred stockholder, you get preferential treatment and you get a certain amount of dividends promised to you if the company pays dividends. So that 2% is promising to them 2% times par times the number of shares. We don't promise the common stockholders anything. That's why there's not a percentage there. They get whatever's left over. So the question was, how do we calculate dividends for preferred stockholders? Well, we take the percentage times the par times the number of shares. So the percent is 0.02, 2% changed to a decimal. The par is $150, and then the number of shares is 12,000. So you're going to, in your calculator, you're going to do 2% times 150 times 12,000, and the number of dividends, the dollar amount of dividends promised to the preferred stockholders is $36,000. Now, you don't have to necessarily pay dividends, but if you do, the preferred stockholders are promised this amount. Okay, now let's see how we're going to use this information. It is asking us to calculate the number of shares for each 4 years. I had to add that to the top here. Calculate the dividends per share on each class of stock for each 4 years. So I've made a column for each year, year 1 through year 4. So it says in the paragraph that year 1 we paid $27,000, year 2 we paid $60,000, year 3 $80,000, and year 4 $90,000 of dividends, cash dividends. So notice that it says to calculate the dividends per share on each class of stock. So this is the total dividends paid. So the question is, who gets what? Okay, let's look at year 1. We're going to start off with preferred because they get preferential treatment. So remember, we calculated for preferred, we promised them 36,000 dividends. So the question is, can we pay them all 36,000? Well, in year 1, we only distributed 27,000, so we can't give them more than 27,000 for year 1. So we're going to give them all 27,000, and we're going to owe them some remaining. Notice common stockholders didn't get any because there was none left over. And then we have dividends and arrears. These are dividends that we weren't able to pay our preferred stockholders, so we still owe them for that amount. So we owe them $36,000. and we paid them $27,000, so we still owe them $9,000. So we'll give that to them when we have enough to give that out. So let's look at year 2. In year 2, we issued 60,000 cash dividends. We pay the preferred $36,000 every year. So we owe them the $36,000, plus we have to pay them for the $9,000 that we weren't able to pay them last year. So the preferred dividends would be $45,000, $36,000 plus $9,000. So since we're caught up on dividends for preferred, we have 0 dividends in arrears. So for the common stock, we had 60,000 dividends and we paid 45,000 to preferred. So the common stockholders will get 15,000 this year of dividends. For year 3, we have $80,000 of dividends, so the preferred will get their full amount, 36,000, and then the common stock will get 80,000 minus the 36,000 that we paid to preferred, and we don't have any dividends in arrears. Year 4, we also have enough, so we're going to give the preferred 36,000, and then we're going to give the common the 90,000 minus the preferred, and we still have no dividends in arrears. So we've calculated the dividends for each year, but we need to calculate the dividends per share on each class of stock for each 4 years. So when it says per share, it means how much per 1 share of stock. So the word per means to divide, so that's how we're going to get to our answer. So for year 1 for preferred, what we will do is take the dollar amount of dividends divided by our number of shares, which is 12,000, and our dividend per share would be $2.25. So for common stock, they have $0 divided by your 50,000 shares, so that would be 0 for year 1. So for year 2, I'm going to say the 45,000 divided by 12, which would be $3.75, which means I paid $3.75 per share of preferred stock. Now for common stock, it says I paid 15,000 divided by the 50,000 shares, which would be 30 cents per share. For year 3 for preferred stockholders, I have 36,000 dollars divided by 12,000 shares, $3 per share. And then for common stockholders, I have $44,000 divided by 50,000 shares, which would be 88 cents per share. So for year 4, they got the same amount, 36,000 divided by 12,000. And then for common stockholders, they got 54,000 divided by 50. So that tells us in year 1, the preferred stockholders got $2.25 per share, and the common stockholders got $0 per share. And if we skip over to year 4, this tells us that we got $3 per share of preferred stock and $1.08 per share of common stock. So this is how you do cumulative preferred stock. Cumulative means if we didn't pay preferred stock the full amount, we will have dividends in arrears. You can have non-cumulative preferred stock. What this means is if you don't pay them, you will pass the dividends and you will not pay them for previous year's dividends. If it doesn't tell you otherwise, you always assume that it's cumulative. Let me know if you have any questions.